So, I just want to talk about what a conscious relationship is today and a couple attributes of what that looks like. It's a term that I think a lot of people are throwing around lately. And I think, and I used to in the old days too, I want a conscious relationship. I want that because it seems like we're saying I want a perfect relationship. I want a relationship where we're both conscious and awake and we don't fight and we don't argue and everything is sunshine and roses. Kind of the opposite of what conscious relationship is. In fact, in a conscious relationship, you might argue a lot at times, but the difference of a conscious relationship and an unconscious relationship is the arguments are productive. They are purposeful and they are intentional. When you come together in a conscious relationship, when both of you are in it knowing you're here to be conscious and awake with each other, you're coming into partnership with the understanding that you are there to trigger each other. You are there to become reactive, and you are there to take a look at what is underneath. And that is both of you there supporting that process in both partners. When you come together in conscious relationship, it's a knowing. The relationship, marriage especially, is two people coming together really to complete their childhood. They're looking to undo their childhood wounding, to heal, to understand, and to fulfill the childhood needs that they were never able to get filled by their parents, by their caregivers. So when you come into conscious relationship, there's a lot of pausing, breathing, observing, taking a step back, because when we get in conflict, when we get into an argument, both partners are going to be aware, boom, this trigger here is not surface level. This is not because you were just late when you told me you'd be home at 5 and you got home at 6:30 and you didn't call. We're going to make a huge fucking deal about that, right? That's really not it. Deep underneath, you're going to pause. Okay, so you were really late. You didn't call. Let me tell you what I experienced in that. It was a trigger of an abandonment wound I've had. The first thing that came up was when my dad XYZ, blah, blah, blah. So this is the point. It's here for you to start undoing. It's here for you to get heard when you weren't heard before. When your dad wouldn't hear you, when you felt abandoned, when you didn't know where else to go, when you felt helpless, when you felt cast aside, when you felt you had no value or worth. Now you get to bring that to your partner and let them know this is how I'm feeling. And then they get to talk it through with you. They get to explain, oh, I'm so sorry that's what you're experiencing. Let me tell you what my experience was and why I was late. And then let me tell you how when you come at me, when I just had this really long day at work, and this was completely unintentional, how I feel because now you're triggering this wound in me. And that is conscious relationship. Doesn't mean you're not going to argue. Absolutely not. But there's understanding, there's communication. And does it work as easily as I just explained? No, not always. Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. And sometimes you'll get stuck in a trigger and reactive. But the point is you are both committed to that growth. You're both committed to that understanding. You start to look at these aspects of your partner that you normally would label as crazy or negative or, whatever. And you start to actually understand them. Other relationships like, oh, they fly off the handle and they're la la la, and I don't understand why they do this and it makes no sense to me and I just want them to act the way I want. Instead in the conscious relationship, it's going to be like, oh, isn't it interesting how? I want to get more curious about why this is how you react to this, whatever. So there's a lot of feedback. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of communication. And in turn, though there's triggers and reactivity, you start to cultivate such a deeper sense of intimacy, of safety, of love between the two of you. And you start to create this well between you both. I feel like some coaches or therapists might call it a bank. It's a well. It's just your space, the space in between that you build and deposit with so much love, attention, witnessing, safety. So when the outside might seem to be falling apart or crumbling or under attack at the moment, you could always go back to that well in the middle, and you always hold that safe between you. And that's something that you both make a commitment to in coming into the conscious relationship. So this is just a couple aspects. There's so many more for us to go over, but think on this now. Have you entered into a relationship like that before? Are you ready to call that in? What will it take in you to be willing to step into that? Because often too, we want that and we want the partner to do all that work, but are we really willing? What shifts do we need to be willing to make in order to step into that space with partners?